creating today's webinar. We'll be talking about the intersection of three hot topics for online retailers: video, mobile, and search. We'll be discussing how merchants and brands can deploy video in a way that effectively reaches consumers searching online, including when they're searching and shopping on smartphones and tablets. We'll be hearing from two executives from online retailer bodybuilding.com, Derek Hicks, Senior Marketing Acquisition Manager, and SEO Specialist James Petsky. They'll be preceded by Seth Dodderer, the Vice President of Marketing and Conductor, a specialist in online marketing and SEO, and the sponsor of today's webinar. We'll take your questions after they speak. You can ask questions at any time using the text box on your screen. And later today or tomorrow, you'll get an email with instructions on how you can obtain today's slides. So let's begin. Before we hear from Seth, I want to quickly review some data that shows the importance for anyone selling online today of mobile, search, and video. The online consumer who shops only on a computer is already in a minority, and their ranks are shrinking fast. Already 2/3 of consumers who shop online use a smartphone or tablet at least part of the time, and 1 in 6 only shops on a mobile device, according to ComScore. And they're shopping a lot. This is data from our annual survey for the Mobile Commerce 500. The 500 retailers with the most mobile sales around the world increased their mobile revenue last year more than 80%. It's notable that the conversion rate of nearly 3% is not far below the average for e-commerce sites in general. And it may surprise you to see that more than 1/3 of sales came from retailers' apps. Loyal customers love to use mobile apps, and companies like Amazon and eBay are getting a lot of sales through their apps. Moving on to search, as you can see, it is the largest line item in the online marketing budgets of retailers, according to a survey last year by Forrester Research and Shop.org. In fact, half of the people responding say their companies are spending more than 30% of their digital marketing budgets on paid search. And retailers are increasing their paid search budgets, according to an Internet Retailer survey conducted last fall. Less than a quarter plan to reduce their paid search spend on desktops, and the percentage is even smaller when it comes to mobile paid search. Only 7.3% say they plan to reduce their mobile paid search spend in the coming year. And you can see the importance of paid search by looking at how much some of the leading retailers spend around the holidays. These are the 5 retailers that spent the most in the 5 days between Thanksgiving and Cyber Monday in 2014. Best Buy spent nearly $2 million on paid search, and Walmart over $1 million on paid search ads in just those 5 days, according to Ad Guru. Finally, video. We know everyone watches video online these days, and here are the 5 leading retailers and brands in terms of YouTube video views last year, according to the Internet Retailer Digital Marketing Series. Particularly notable is VAT19.com. It's not a terribly big gadget and gift retailer, but they make great use of video to help sell their often oddball products. As you can see, they registered 590 million views on YouTube last year and had 363,000 subscribers to their video channel. That's just one illustration of how powerful video can be, even for an online retailer that's not a household name. So how do all these 3 trends come together? That's what our speakers will be addressing today. You'll be hearing first from Seth Dodderer of Conductor, and then from Derek Hicks and James Petsky of bodybuilding.com. Remember, you can ask questions at any time, and we'll take them at the end, and you will all be receiving an email in the next day or two with instructions on how to access the slides. So with that, I will turn it over to Seth Dodderer of Conductor.
Thank you very much, Don. I appreciate that greatly. So I'm thrilled to be here today to talk to you guys, to talk to retailers specifically about how they can tap into that market, how they can tap into some of the buyers that Don mentioned before, and how they can organize their marketing teams and actually what tactics they can use to capture some of those instead of letting them go to the competition. One of the things that we've seen over the last couple of years, should be no surprise, is that customers strongly prefer the unpaid web. So while we've seen those vast investments from marketers in paid spend, we've seen 90% of the budgets of all marketers, not just online retailers, go to paid spend. There's a huge discrepancy between the actual buyer behavior. We've seen that of those actual, this is some research that we did on our own, about 250 million visits, and we saw that 90% of the budgets were actually going to 6% of the traffic itself. Those marketers are clearly misaligned with where their consumers' behavior are going after them. As you think about that yourself, you think about where are we spending our time, clicking on banner ads or clicking on paid ads, or do we more often go into clicking on a shared story from someone I trust, or an organic listing from a search engine like Google? And smart marketers have been investing the people and the budgets to try and even that out. We work with an awful lot of marketers in an awful lot of industries, and we find an overwhelming response that when people invest in the earning of those customers, their marketing pays off. Now, for most of those marketers, as they shift and try and capture that unpaid web, organic search means Google on a desktop. It's not surprising. It's the low-hanging fruit. It's what we think about when we say, I'm at my desk at work and I'm searching. Own behavior in our personal lives. We see that it's irresponsible to just think that searching behavior is happening at a desk in front of a computer screen only through the Google search engine. In fact, we've seen that 2014 was the year of the mobile tipping point. This is a great stat that I love from ComScore that shows globally the number of users using a mobile phone or tablet to access the internet overtook the actual desktop users. This has a huge, huge impact on the way we need to think about our marketing. And clearly this is indicative of the worldwide proliferation of phone usage, but also we need to think about, well, what is my user experience, and more importantly, am I involved when a buyer goes down that journey on a mobile device? Don mentioned all that commerce that took place on those mobile devices to start us off. And the important question that we have is, well, where do they start? There was a Google Think Insight study that was done recently that said, okay, on a mobile device, how is the discovery of the products or services, how is the discovery of actually what I might be looking to learn more about or make a purchase, how does it start? It's clear the questions are now not just, are the people going to this as a channel, but am I there to actually capture them? And mobile devices have a couple of unique challenges. Number one is that the stakes are much, much higher because of the influence of things like local. Clearly, if you search for pizza in New York or you search for pizza in LA, you're going to get different results. And knowing whether or not your brand shows up for that particular term is critical. But number two is that real estate can actually have a huge impact. That on a mobile device, especially a phone, there can be maybe one, maybe two organic search results that actually show up. And knowing that the consumer so much values that organic result, whether or not you're in the top one or two spots can be the difference between capturing a customer or losing a sale. On top of that, knowing whether or not you're still in it is increasingly difficult. As marketers, we used to just go to desktop, do a search, and say, how am I doing in this particular term? And I could see right there. But with personalization and local and video changes, we see it's more and more difficult to keep track of those, but more and more important to the marketer. The other thing we're talking about today is the impact of the changing tastes of people, how they like to consume the content. Now, I have a little story here about, I have 3 kids, and they recently got big enough so that they're not destroying all of our furniture. And we decided we needed some a new coffee table for our living room. Now, my first reaction is to go to Google and type in coffee table and get all of these results. You can see the product listings. You can see that there's some folks that are showing up well in organic search. But that's not the way my household bought this particular coffee table. My wife instead went to Pinterest, and she searched for coffee table, and she got a bunch of different results that were in there. And she didn't just stop there as an exploration vehicle. She also went and said she pinned 2 of those to her board and saw which one of them got more repins. One of them got a few repins. The second one got hundreds of repins. And that's the one that's sitting in my living room today. She essentially crowdsourced our coffee table purchasing decision through the use of a visual method. Now, as a husband, I'm extraordinarily proud of my wife for doing this. As a marketer, it scares me silly because no brand was involved in this. No retailer was involved in this. It was only at the very end when there was an actual purchase decision made. And so the point is that we need to be involved in those buyers' education, early parts of the buyer's journey early so we can get them. When we switch to video, it's even more astounding. There are over 1 billion YouTube users every single month consuming content. A vast number of people who are going out, doing those same exploratory journeys, whether they're looking to be educated, whether they're looking to purchase, or whether they're looking to be entertained. YouTube is, in fact, the world's 2nd largest search engine, with all apologies to the Bing and Yahoo folks out there. And a stat that I found just amazing that we got directly from YouTube themselves is that 5 times as many consumers will watch online video today as visit Walmart. That's just an enormously impressive stat. And as a retailer, if I'm thinking about how do I get my product or service in front of 5 times as many people who walk into America's biggest retailer, it's hugely, hugely powerful. When you think about showing up in the video SERPs, there are a couple of clear winners. Even if you're just looking about how do I show up in video in Google, there are some wins. I recently replaced a couple dimmer switches in my house. My kids wanted some, the lights to be not so bright in their bedrooms. And I was trying to figure out how to do it, an educational sale. I went to search how to replace a dimmer switch. I found where I bought it, went to Lowe's, which was the particular place that came up on my search for this, and got it from there. But the changing SERPs that have video in them now clearly affect the buyer's journey. There's a stat that's a little bit dated now from Forrester, but it says that you are 53 times more likely to rank if you have video content than plain text content. For many retailers, this is the low-hanging fruit on-ramp on how they can get to the top of the search results. Creating content that can jump through all of those tens of pages of results and get to the very top. Once you're at the top, there's an added benefit. AimClear did a study a little while ago that showed that there was a 41% increase in the click-through rate on a SERP that had a video snippet to it than the plain text ones as well. Clearly helpful to get them up there. Now, there's some best practices that we talk about all the time when we think about how retailers can show up in these SERPs. The 3 are keep it short, make it 2 to 3 minutes, are great times for YouTubes. They're not only great for consuming, but they're also great for production. The second one is to transcribe your script. While Google's gotten better and better at being able to extract the actual audio tracks to figure out what's going on or do contextually on how it's linked, transcribing your scripts on what you put online is still the best way to signal this is what my content's about. And the last one is to think and experiment about rich video snippets as well. The next piece is to make sure you understand what is the user behavior that's driving consumer visits either on YouTube or Google to itself. This is a screenshot from our application that shows a retailer's YouTube videos and how they're actually doing on YouTube and how they do then in the standard organic search. This is a great way to connect your content people to your actual SEO folks, to your video people, to make those connections and say, these are the phrases that are driving traffic on YouTube, and these are the phrases that I want to make sure that I have content to as well. You can also then say, how am I changing, am I showing up, and how am I moving it also. By the way, I saw a question there that just came through on what is a SERP. I apologize about that. A SERP is search engine ranking position or rankings page, depending on how you do that. So it's a shorthand for saying these are the results page in Google. Great question. Sorry about using my, my jargon there. But there's a key element here that we've seen, is that content spans multiple channels. As a marketer, that piece of content that I write, that video that I create, it has multiple lives outside of just my website. In fact, it's more likely to be seen on YouTube or LinkedIn or Pinterest or Google than it is on my own site, because consumers are starting those journeys earlier on, and they're not starting them with your sites. Marketers have had to change how they function. And I remember the days of SEO when it was mostly folks who were highly technical, highly skilled on things like H1 tags and canonical tags and acronyms like SERPs. But what we've seen is that there's a new breed of marketer. That's no longer enough. Now that we've changed to having your content show up in so many other locations, we've shifted. Great SEOs are no longer the most technical people in the room. Now they're the people that are best at communicating with the rest of the organization. They're the ones that are finding the way to bring data and collaboration to the rest of their organizations and turn that entire organization into a search expert, rather than saying, I'm the one person, I'm a siloed SEO person in my organization. If there's one thing that I can leave you with today as you think about this, is that as an SEO person, you can't do it alone. You need to change. What we've seen is the evolution from the SEO as a siloed, discrete function into a center of excellence. That center of excellence has to leverage the entire organization, from letting the content stakeholders know here's what the consumers are talking about, to the technical stakeholders saying, yes, you do need to fix these pages. We're not being found here. Or there are some technical limitations that are stopping us from showing up in YouTube or on Google SERPs. To the product stakeholders that are thinking about naming your products. Many of our best customers are the ones that think about how the consumer might find their product or service before they ever name them. And finally, to the leadership stakeholders at organizations, from B2B organizations to brands to the retailers that put them out there. It's clear that senior leadership cares, do I show up off of my site before people come to my site? There's been a shift as a marketer. In the old world, it was thinking about you and what channels you could use, whether that was using Google or YouTube or Facebook, thinking about Twitter or Yelp, and am I showing up there? And then thinking about the consumers as one of those pieces. The new paradigm puts the consumer at the center of the universe and you on the outside looking in. The question is, are you able to go to those places where the consumer is looking and find them and show up? The way that you do that is to start thinking about the challenges of your customers before they think about your products. We often think about the buyer's journey that marketers go through an awareness, exploration, and purchase, and that our site is often only at the very end of that journey. Average marketers think about, well, can I just convert the visitors to my website who are coming and already interested in something? Great marketers are thinking, do I have content that engages my customers before they're ready to buy, with compelling video content when they're on the go, and that they can do that in a way that enables their entire organizations to actually rally around that and change that. At Conductor, we have the opportunity to work with many of the world's greatest brands, and we get to pick the best 1% of them and show what they're doing and share that all with you. We've seen that the great marketers are doing three things. They're thinking about personas and buyers' journeys, they're thinking about online channels, and they're thinking about content and formats, and they're putting them all together. We think about this as so important to break away from that traditional thinking about just SEO that we call it something new. We call it web presence management, and we think it's an exciting new way to think about how you market to and engage with your customers before they make a buying decision. One of our best customers, one of our greatest, one of the folks I'm really thrilled to watch what they're doing as marketers is bodybuilding.com. And I am really, really thrilled today to be able to introduce Derek Hicks and James Betsky from bodybuilding.com so that they can share a little bit about what they're doing at bodybuilding.com and how they're tackling these challenges today. Guys?
Awesome. Thanks, Seth. My name's Derek, and we've got quite a few slides to get through, so we're going to try and go through this really fast. And I apologize. I do have a cold, so I'm going to do my best with my voice here. So first off, what is bodybuilding.com? Bodybuilding.com is the largest and most visited fitness site on the web. We have more than 30 million unique visitors that come to our site every month, and 60% of our traffic comes from organic search. And over 50% of our traffic now happens on mobile devices. We're based right here in Boise, Idaho, but we do have 5 distribution centers around the world and growing. Our business model is completely centered around content, community, and commerce. We've been doing inbound marketing before it was cool, before it was the new hot thing to do. And we do it because it's how we can best help our customers. So just to kind of break down some of those segments of our business, our content team is one of the largest teams in our company. We have over 50+ people on that team, and a third of them are actually on our video production team. Right now we have over 20,000 articles published on our site, and we publish around 4 to 5 new articles every single day. We also have over 9,000 videos on our site and produce around 800 to 1,000 videos a year in-house. On top of that, we offer very detailed, full, robust 12-week training and nutrition plans completely for free. So our community, it's called Body Space. We have millions of members that use it every day, and it's a place where you can track your workouts and your fitness journey, as well as connect with like-minded people. Oddly enough, we also have one of the largest forums in the world, and our forum was our original community. And lastly, we are an e-commerce company that sells sports nutrition supplements. We have over 10,000 SKUs and 120 country-specific catalogs. And this is the only way we make money. Everything else on our site, all of our tools, all of our content, all of our apps are free. So it's obvious that organic search is vitally important. That's a given. But today I want to talk a little bit about search experience optimization and how that relates to design considerations for search. So James and I work very hard to try and design a great search experience for our customers. One of the ways we do this is by finding popular topics that people are searching for, and then we work hard to understand who is actually looking up that topic and why. What's their motivation? And then what currently ranks on the first page? And why do those pieces of content rank? Well, And then what would be the most epic format that we could use to answer those questions that people are looking for. When I say format, I'm talking about in-depth articles, video, top 10 lists, etc. There's an infinite number of ways to format your content. So let me show you a few examples of different formats that have worked very well for us. So the first one is an example of one of our video trainers. Our content team did a phenomenal job on this. This is something they built all on their own. We kind of helped optimize some of the technical SEO things for this, but it's amazing. It has pages and pages of content covering like full training plans, complete nutrition program, supplement recommendations, as well as motivation to keep you in the gym and keep you on track. And something like this, it would be absolutely impossible for us to make as epic as it is without video. And we have to use video. It's just the only way we could do it. So here's another example where video would actually get in the way of a great user experience. And these are kind of the things we think about. So in this case, we found a topic, just high-protein foods. A lot of people were looking for information about that. And we worked with our content team to just create an epic list of high-protein foods. And if we had video on the page, it would slow down the performance of the page, and it really wouldn't add a ton of value. So having a list provides the answers that people want in the fastest way possible. So here's another example where, again, lists were the best way to answer a question. People wanted a fast, easy-to-digest list of recommendations for protein powders in this case. And we do have video on the page, but it's not really what people are looking for. But it is there just in case someone needed more information about protein powder, and we can educate them in that video. So the last example of designing a great search experience is a quick story. We have a bunch of content, bunch of category pages within our store, like most e-commerce stores do. And this one is an example of one of our creatine category pages. So within the category page, we have a bunch of content as well as video that exists on the page. And last year, those videos were giving us video-rich snippets in the search results, which I thought was great. But long story short, we looked at a ton of data and determined that these video-rich snippets were actually hurting us rather than helping us. And so through a long process, we ended up removing them and running a test, and our traffic and revenue doubled for over 300 category pages on our site. And a big part of why that happened was because video was not what people wanted in this specific use case. They just wanted to buy supplements. Sometimes the supplement industry can be a bit confusing, and we work really hard to try and simplify that process and educate people. And by having a video on the page, it just seemed like people did not want to click that and have to watch a video. So we removed it, and again, amazing results from that. So hopefully these examples give you some ideas on how you need to design a great search experience for your customers, because it's going to be different for every industry. It's going to be different for every company. And those are the kind of things you need to think about. What format for your content would be the ideal for your customers? Don't just choose a format. Don't just do video. Don't just do mobile because it's growing like crazy or it's super popular. Do it because it's what's best for your specific type of customers. So how do we get our content team to work with us? Well, that's actually a long story. It's been a work in progress for over 2 years, and I'll save you the nitty-gritty details and just try and sum it up for you really quick. So first off, just like any big company, silos happen. Our content team was so busy, things seemed to be working, they were crushing it producing a ton of content, our traffic was growing. Why should they listen to us? We saw a huge opportunity, but we struggled to get buy-in. Here's what we were looking at from an opportunity perspective. So this slide is showing the number of content assets created by publication year. So we consider a content asset to be an article that brings in over 2,000 visits a week from organic search or greater. And so you can see we were doing really well. I mean, we were kind of hitting the 20 to 35 range every year, but that it was kind of sporadic, and we weren't getting better at it every year. It wasn't a process we had figured out yet. And it also meant that less than 3% of the content we were producing was becoming true organic search content assets. And we wanted to find a way that we could work with our content team and help them be more successful and get lucky more often. So I had this brilliant idea of trying to influence some of the strategy and content design of one of the largest teams in our company. This picture is seriously how I felt when we first started trying to work with our content team. They are beyond amazing. They were hitting home runs all the time. And yeah, they're just phenomenal. And they're also way more fit than that guy. So despite feeling like the tiniest sumo wrestler in the world, here's how we started to influence their team. It was a long process of working really hard with key leaders within the company to get buy-in for one meeting that we do every single month. And I worked very hard to make that happen, and now it's happening. We've been doing it now for over a year, and we literally sit down with them once a month with the goal of helping them to be more successful. It's every meeting, it's pretty much always about them, what they're interested in, and how that overlaps with the SEO team and our goals and the opportunities we're seeing. And so right now I'm going to switch gears here and let James take over. He's the one that runs these meetings, and he has been absolutely critical in the success of those meetings. So go ahead, James.
All right, thanks, Derek. So like Derek said, this is a monthly meeting, and the first thing that we do in this meeting is basically go over the performance of everything that's been published in the last 90 days or so, and try to help determine which content assets that our team creates are performing the best and why. So what we do is we just get an Excel document and we look at the metrics that we know are the key performance metrics. For us, it's traffic, it's demand dollars or revenue, it's bounce rate and new visit percentage. And basically, we show all this data to our content team. And they don't get to see this data very often, so they absolutely love to see it. And then we highlight some standout articles. These articles, they always get super excited to see these because they know that they're like the best 1 or 2% top articles on the site. So when they see their article as one of the best, they get super excited about it, and they get even more excited about working with us. And it's a great opportunity for us to help them get excited about what we're doing. The next thing that we do is we look at our content opportunity dashboard. This is something that we created within Conductor, and basically it's just a collection of keywords that we know are highly searched in our industry and that we don't currently rank for, and that would be great fits for a content piece. We go over this dashboard with them. We show them, hey, these are some of the top keywords that we think would be the best ones to target this month. We try to keep it small, 2 or 3 keywords every meeting, and just say, hey, if you guys can knock out these ones this month, they'll be huge wins. From there, we really try to facilitate a discussion. It's amazing, like when we get in these meetings and we show them the articles that are performing well, discussion just organically happens about how we can create content that performs better. One of the only avenues that we have for our writers to have those conversations, and they absolutely love it, we love it, we get tons of great ideas from these meetings, so that is probably the most valuable part of having these monthly meetings. Once the meeting is over, our publishing team uses Trello. It's just a task management tool. It's something that we have access to, and we can go in and see the articles that they're working on while they're working on them. So we can kind of track what they're doing, make suggestions as they're going, and we can be ready to go as soon as they publish a new article, and we want to do something with it from our perspective as well. And it's basically just a great way for us to be a part of their process. So let's look at some results. We've been doing this now for over a year, and we've seen some amazing wins. First off, in the number of SEO assets created per year. Like Derek said, this is just the number of articles that we create every year. They get over 2,000 visits per week from organic search. As you can see, in both 2013 and 2014, we saw huge increases. Then when we look at the traffic, the weekly traffic that those assets bring in, you can see that it's even bigger increases. So not only are we producing more content assets, but the content assets that we're producing are even higher quality and bringing in even more traffic. And then lastly, this is what I like to call the compound interest effect. Basically, this is a graph of all of the articles that we have helped them produce, either given them tips along the way, or we had the topic idea for them, or we did some SEO work on the article to make it better and more likely to perform well in organic search for the last year or so. And you can see as time has gone on, the traffic that those articles bring in slowly accumulates, and it looks like a compound interest effect. And it just grows and grows and grows over time, because the articles that we produced 8 months ago are still doing awesome, and we're adding even more all the time that are continuing to do awesome. And that is all we had, and with that, I will pass it back to Don.
Okay. Well, thank you, James and Derek. Ready for questions, and we've got quite a few in the queue, but still time to add yours. So here's a question for the bodybuilding team. How are standout articles defined? One is organic traffic grows month over month?
Yeah, James, do you want to cover that one?
Yeah, sure. So we look at a couple different things. Mostly we look at organic search traffic that we know is going to be long-term. So for example, if we see an article that is starting to bring in an increasing amount of organic search traffic, we'll go and try to find the keywords that it's ranking for. And if we see keywords that we know are going to have high search volume for a long time, so we just look at Google Keyword Planner to see search volumes for those keywords. If an article is ranking for a keyword that we know will bring in traffic for a long time, that's what we consider a win, because we know that it's a long-term asset. It's not just about a short-term win. It's about a long-term asset for our business.
Okay, here's a question for Seth. What is the role of pictures in SEO?
That's a great question. So pictures can have a variety of different results. The first one is sort of the one that's been around forever, which is you can tag those pictures with alt tags there to make sure you're letting Google know this is an image about, and that can help the relevance of the page that image is on. It can also help it show up in the image SERP. So when people are searching for those products or services or whatever they are that happen to show up. The next thing that can really do is just to help the overall user experience and make sure that people are engaged in the pages you're on, and that can have a really, really effective increase in your natural search traffic, because when folks are engaged with the pages after they visit, that's a signal back to Google that, hey, this is a great page and people like it.
Okay, a question for the bodybuilding team. What is your strategy for video content that is on bodybuilding.com versus video that appears on places like YouTube or Vimeo?
That's an awesome question. I wish I could speak more to that. That would be probably a great question for our video team, which I wish they could be on this call. We're still really trying to figure it out, like what's going to work best for us. Right now, we're just doing a lot of syndication of content that is on our site to YouTube or other video platforms. But we are definitely working on some strategies to produce content that's just for YouTube. I can't really speak to anything specifically yet.
Okay. Anyone else want to add anything to that?
I was just going to jump in, Don, and say that many of our customers view the relationship between YouTube and their sites as a sort of feeder relationship, and that can come in the form of traffic. In other words, we're showing up on YouTube and then people are clicking through to our website, or it can be a mechanism for discovering content seeds. So they can say, here's what people are searching for and finding us on YouTube, and we actually want to use that to drive the content that then exists on our website. So use sort of well, where they're friendly, but they're also competition for us, because when someone does, go online and type into just a regular Google search, the question of whether they're competing with YouTube or whether they want to bring that to their site so they can tag them for remarketing and continue to market them for a bunch of other ways is really key.
One other point, actually, just going back to the YouTube stuff, and one thing we're also talking about is looking at some of these types of content. Like I showed a slide on top 10 lists. We're looking at maybe leveraging those lists and producing video content, kind of promoting those pages. It's something that we haven't tested yet, but I think it will actually do well. So that is one strategy where you could kind of find content that's doing really well on your site and, kind of take a different angle and produce a video to promote that content, kind of a secondary promotion effect.
That reminds me of a question I was thinking about, James, is that do these lists tend to be effective for a longer period of time than other kinds of content?
Yeah, James, you want to speak to that?
For sure. The lists that we have, like the high protein foods list and the top protein powders list that Derek showed, those lists are the top performing pages on our site and have been since we created them, in some cases over a year ago.
Okay. Here's a question for Seth. Are there any B2B examples from your experience at Conductor?
Sure. I don't want to give away any sort of customer stories, but the one that I use often is thinking about Salesforce. If you're a B2B marketer, you're obviously familiar with Salesforce, and when you think about how they go out and how they are going to try and show up, they do a couple different things. One, they go after different personas. If you're Salesforce, you might be selling to the sales manager, but also the sales rep, the executives in the organizations. They all have different ways of attacking them. And so they create content that's aimed at all of those different personas. And they all have different goals and objectives out of them. And then creating videos and early stage content that helps with them, whether that's in the form of a webinar just like this, an educational format, or going further and saying, hey, here's a how-to video that you can do. I think that, in the B2B space, there are a lot of education opportunities that exist just like the B2C world. There's a sort of a growing trend to not think of a schism between B2B and B2C as different things, but rather to think about, B2P, or business to people, or business to individuals, because we all react the same way. We all have that sort of I need to go find out some more information on how to do my job, and oh wow, if I got a little bit of information, that leads me down a path to buying decision, and so we all sort of behave the same way in those purchases. So I would say it's much less about B2B and B2C than are you thinking about early stage or late stage video.
Okay, we've got a couple of questions for the bodybuilding team about how all this content leads to greater revenue or sales. Can you talk anything about the correlation?
That's an awesome question. That's something we're always trying to figure out. It's so hard to measure it. We've just kind of sold out on doing inbound marketing. It's just in the DNA of our company. We started back in 99, and ever since then, Ryan DeLuca has been very focused on providing the absolute best experience for our customers at all costs. And part of that in the fitness space is education and teaching people about content. And so we've just always done it. Now we're getting more and more sophisticated. I can't really speak to too many details on that, on how we measure it, but really just looking at are people coming back to your site? Do they share your content, what kind of traffic is generated from those shares, and there's definitely a lot of things to look at. We have a whole business intelligence team that works on that kind of stuff, but it's hard to measure it. It just is. And if you have the ability to just do it and sell out on that model, for us, it has continued to work very well. And you kind of have to have some faith in that model.
And think about it this way, too. If we were to pay for the kind of traffic that we receive to our content, the cost of entry there would be enormous. We get literally millions of visitors every week to our content absolutely for free from organic search. So that's millions of people visiting our website and getting exposed to our brand. And if we had to go pay for that traffic, it just wouldn't be economically feasible.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, it also segues into another question that was asked. Mickey says that he read where Ryan DeLuca, the CEO of bodybuilding.com, says the focus has been around content rather than paid advertising. And he asked, do you still use paid advertising to increase engagement with your content, or do you just rely on organic results?
For our content, it's been purely, for the most part, just organic. We have done some social promotion, mainly because of Facebook's algorithm changes, but for our content, I would say it's mostly just organic. Yeah.
We do have advertising for our commerce side, obviously.
Absolutely.
Content-wise, everything has been pretty much organic.
Yep.
Okay. Another question for the bodybuilding team. How do you determine what format to create a piece of content, for example, video versus article?
I think, number one, just really getting into the head of the customer and like really thinking about why, like the motivations behind why they're looking for that topic, but then also just going and looking at what's currently ranking. That's a pretty good indicator of what's doing well out on the web. James, you could probably speak to some ideas on that too.
Yeah, I mean, really it's a psychology thing, right? You have to think in the mindset of why would somebody search for this query. So the example that we had, high protein foods, we can take a guess there and say that someone who's searching in Google for high protein foods is probably thinking about going on some sort of high protein diet, and they want to see some sort of examples of foods that they could eat on that diet. So a list was the perfect candidate in that example. Just, the perfect format to show people, here are some great examples of foods that you can eat on a high-protein diet. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, really, it comes down to more psychology. That's why the talk of SEOs can't just be technical, types anymore. You have to get into the soft skills a little bit in the psychology and the social sciences. Like, I think that is super valuable for SEOs to consider.
SEOs need empathy. You need to know what other people are thinking and feeling and why.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, another question. So where do you look to see what the most searched topics are, and how do you sort through that list for relevance?
James?
Yeah, so I mean, we use Google Keyword Planner, just the super basic tools that Google gives us to look at specific search volumes for keywords. But beyond that, we've done a lot of different things to discover keywords, everything from looking at our competitors, using SEMrush, if you're familiar with them, to get keyword lists. And then what we do is we get keyword lists, and then we filter them all through Conductor, through our different dashboards, and we use that to rank the different keywords that we found and discover the most important ones for us to target.
Yeah.
Okay, here's a question.
I'd also say Conductor has also given us some lists as well that we kind of pre-populated. They've been very helpful with some of those ideas. So,
Seth, you want to comment a little bit about where those lists come from?
Sure. So Searchlight goes out and crawls the web, crawls your sites, crawls competitors' websites, and then we have sort of the industry's most amazing customer success team that they do an amazing job of curating those and sort of hooking up the right data sources to feed those as well. So, it's a combination of the platform itself, which I think is the #1 piece that goes out and crawls those, tying into different data sets from your analytics to things like SEMrush, to our proprietary database, to Google's suggestions and all of those as well.
Okay, here's a question for you, Seth. You showed the funnel that goes from awareness to purchasing. How is that funnel different for consumers on mobile devices versus those on computers?
Yeah, that's a great question. And in many ways, the person who's on a mobile device is looking for a relatively quick answer. It's either that they need to get something right now, or the transaction has to happen, or that they're out and about and they're reading their email, or they're doing something along those lines. So you have to make sure that the content is consumable. That means the formats that they're in, they have to be highly visual. They have to be, of course, responsive. I can't tell you how many people we've seen where they have great early stage content, but it's not in a responsive form, so it's available when you're on the desktop, but not on the actual mobile devices. And then again, like this webinar is all about, video can be so compelling, because if there's a result there, they don't have to try and navigate and get the fingers exactly right in the right spot to search or to scroll. They can actually hit that one play button and consume that video. So on a mobile device, you have to think a lot more about how consumable is the content, and how can I actually drive that to an action, whether I want to get them to purchase or put them into a cart or doing something like that as well. It's much more of a UX question. Great question.
Okay, for the bodybuilding team, we've covered a little bit of this, but specifically, what metrics do you look at when building a landing page to determine if you should go with an article versus a video or a list?
It doesn't really, for us, it hasn't been metrics specifically to help determine that. I think, like we were kind of talking about earlier, it's more about the psychology. You have to kind of take a leap of faith, really, because you don't know beforehand what the metrics are going to be.
If you have time, there's A/B testing platforms out there. If you have time to kind of create 2 formats and split the traffic and see what one does best, then that'd be fantastic. Sometimes we just don't have time to do that. But yeah, you gotta take a leap of faith and really think about the psychology.
Okay. So a question from Carlo says that she really likes the way you set up your store with articles, education, the way you make it easy to search for products. And she asks, what platform are you using for your store?
ATG.
Okay. That's now part of Oracle, of course. Okay. Next question. Is the on-site video strategy focused on adding video to content articles or having dedicated content light video pages?
Say that again?
Do you mainly create pages that just have video, or do you combine video with other kinds of content?
Oh,
we combine quite a bit. So like our trainers are our biggest pieces of content. They're like 12 or 8-week plans, and those combine. They'll have some text and then a video that explains some different elements to it, and then like a workout guide that has lists of exercises, things like that. So in a lot of cases, we combine them.
I would say probably in most.
Yeah,
there's
probably.
Maybe the exercise database is the only section that's just purely video, and even that has some content.
Yeah.
So
mostly combined.
Yep. I guess you gotta have some, like what Seth was talking about. You have to have some content there to make it, number one, easy for people to read it and understand it, study it, but also for bots to know what's going on with that page.
Okay, here's a question for Seth. How do you see using branded video players working? How does that work for SEO versus embedding YouTube players on a website?
Yeah, so there's always this challenge, right? Which is if I use a branded video like a Vimeo or something else, then I can more control the experience, or put it inside my website. I get to control the experience, but if I put it on YouTube, then I get the additional distribution potentially, and you can also get the additional add-on subscribers. So, one thing when you think about YouTube that can be really, really helpful is that if you put the video out there and you even embed it on your website, but you're thinking about, okay, now I want to get an additional subscriber, that can do some amazing things when you add that channel subscribers, because other places on YouTube, that starts to be the curated, personalized experience that they see on YouTube. So if you have a customer that's interested in, restoring cars and video games, well, then even when they're on the YouTube site looking at a video game video, you may be able to show them, and they'll get suggestions about your, vintage car, restoration video or whatever that might be. That said, it can be really, really difficult to control the user experience and get the actual analytics that you need out of the YouTube player. So I hate to say that there's not a great right down the line answer to that, but it really is a mix of saying, well, how much are you doing new customer acquisition versus curating them, and can you use YouTube's tools for that, or are you trying to do it on your own? For the SEO itself, I think it's pretty clear, though Google denies it, that there is a preference for their own YouTube content, although whether that's just because it's really crawlable or whether that's because there's an actual preference there is still unknown.
Okay. Question about bodybuilding team. How have you changed your website layout over time? Has it helped in SEO, and can you offer any tips?
The website layout.
The website design.
Yeah, we just did a big redesign, and I guess we still don't know yet. But in terms of SEO, I don't know if we've really seen anything. James, ideas?
Yeah, I mean, the things to think about when you're redesigning are obviously the links that are going to be front and center, what pages you're going to link to and give the most page rank to. So from your home page, that's obviously your most powerful page. It's going to be sending the most power in most cases anyway.
Yeah.
So the links that you have from there are really important to consider what pages of your site you want to be the strongest.
Yeah, you definitely need to consider the taxonomy of your site. Generally, the further up you can move your content, the better. Like the closer you can get it to the home page, if you can redesign your site so that happens. Like on our site, you can see on our site we have this fly-out top-level navigation, and most of those links are rendered on the page, and so you kind of create a flatter taxonomy by doing that. That's always ideal. But I guess I'd preface, you want to do it more for the user experience than bots.
Absolutely.
Like that is 100%. You got to do that.
Okay, we're just about at the top of the hour, so we're going to wrap up the Q&A period. I want to thank Derek Hicks and James Petsky from bodybuilding.com and Seth Dotterer from Conductor. Remember, you will all be getting an email with instructions on how to access the slides that you saw today. I hope you all found it useful. Thanks for attending. Have a great day.